Excellent. Hi, all. So that's our starter slide there. And this month's theme, I kind of went with paint, but I left the planets on there because it's still summer reading. So this is Check It Out. It's the June 2019, our monthly collection development webinar. This is the third month we've done it, believe it or not. That's my email address. It'll come back up at the end. I always encourage you to reach out to me with questions, or if you need help, if you need me to consult on anything, you want me to make you a book list, you want to talk about weeding a specific section of your collection. And I try to get back to you as soon as possible, though never feel bad about emailing me to bother me again. Here's my hello. I cut my hair. Can't really see, but I cut my hair like 4 inches. It's back in a little cute peppy ponytail. So there's a new picture of me for the spring summer season. That's the State Library of Iowa. If you are not from Iowa, welcome. But this is pretty through the State Library of Iowa where I work, and you can see behind me in our studio, we have this lovely backdrop that's brand new that they have set up so that the studio is like more welcoming to me. So hello. What are we going to cover today? As per usual, this is our quick intro slide if this is the first time you've attended or if you've been to all 3. We're going to do lots and lots of new books. By new books, I mean published in May and June. I included a few that I missed at the end of May, but for the most part, this is what has been released in June of 2019. These are going to look for ages 0 to 18. We're going to go from board books all the way up to upper YA. This is a default reminder. You cannot, it is not physically possible, even in 10 hours for me to cover everything that was published. So this really is highlights, but it's not only highlights of books that I genuinely enjoy, but they're also trends I want you to pay attention to and things that I think are really important that can be of use in your library. Like last month, we talked about some new sports biographies. So with the idea that maybe that was a section of your library you could look to revitalize. And we have a couple that are like that this month. So it's not just highlights of books I love, but it's also things that are kind of giving you trends that we're seeing in publishing and that we want to see more of. And the way that we want to see more of those is by supporting these books. So as per usual, not just the big 6 publishers and the New York Times bestsellers. I'm not going to be book talking the new Sarah Dessen book to you. You already know there's a new Sarah Dessen book, and it came out and debuted on the New York Times bestseller list. I'm not going to be telling you Diary of a Wimpy Kid is out. You already know that book is out. So we're going to go beyond the big 6 publisher and New York Times bestseller list, and I'm going to give you some resources and ideas for how to keep up on this if you're into it, but you don't have to keep up into it because that's what these webinars are for. So that's going to kind of be what our in and out is, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I also wanted to see, yes, that someone said in the chat that they bought the last one and almost every single one was checked out. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, I love that. And through this, I would love it if in the chat you talked about the books you're excited to hear, to read about, or if you've heard about, or the ones you think will be really popular, because I think having that kind of conversation and dialogue keeps us all tuned in, although I understand that some of you basically just have Amazon windows open and you go through and buy as we go. So with that in mind, before we get started, this is my customary check-in for summer reading. I know that this is the most stressful time of the year. I am so glad if you have spent any time today live, or if you're watching this sometime during the summer, if you have taken time out of your extraordinarily busy summer to be with us. And I want to let you know, if you haven't heard it from anybody else, that you are doing great. You are doing amazing. You are creating magic at your library, and I am so amazingly thrilled for the kids in your town. And I know that this is a stressful and exhausting time of year, but I want you to know that I see you and I know the work you are doing, and you are doing a great job. So go easy on yourself. Let go of the things you messed up and, well, I should have, I could. You're doing great. You have made it all the way to the end of June. You're doing fantastic. Hang in there. Okay, so that's my summer check-in on you. And again, if you ever need encouragement, if you ever need, you want to keep talking about it, if you ever want another cheer on, or you want somebody to vent to, please feel free to email me or call me. That's what I'm here for. So that's in little, okay. So with that said, we're going to start with, why are we doing this? Your collection matters. I know I start with this every month, but I want to reinforce this message, and I want you to keep this in mind with the books that we talk about. Your collection matters. It sends a message about your library to your community. It really can change people's lives, and it has great power. And as a great man once said, with great power comes great responsibility. I want you to take that seriously. I want you to think about the titles that you are sharing. I want you to think about the gaps that are in your library. And I want you to think about how you can address them in your programming, in your displays, and in your collection. I know that there are huge systematic problems at play in publishing, but we can begin to fix them. And we can do that by putting our money behind books that we think make a difference, do something good, and help kids and families say, hey, that's me. So more than anything, these are to remind you your collection matters. All the other stuff you do at your library is super important. That is all part of your place and function as the third space in your community. It is absolutely important, but so is your collection. And I want to thank you for knowing that and for showing that interest by being at each one of these. So we always start off with that reminder that the collection is important, the collection is a base, and the collection can be a huge agent of change. So let's get into it. Okay, board books and picture books. As you all know, I do not rank books by age. I believe that teenagers can read board books. I believe that second graders can hear YA books read out loud. I do not believe in putting ages or levels on books. That doesn't exist. So we're going to start with board books and picture books. Not a lot of board books this month. But this is our Hello World series. I mentioned this in our first one. If you are not familiar with this board book series, it's really great. It's more than just 1 or 2 words a page, but not much more. And this is a special one that is coming out now this month in preparation for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. So it says things like the astronauts wore boots and shuttles, boots and suits. Not too complicated, but everything in this Hello World series, which are all about nature. There's one about dinosaurs, there's one about weather, there's one about how do apples grow. They're really good for that transitional board book period when you're not quite ready for maybe longer books, but you also are ready for longer than the word shoe on a page. So this one's super cute. There's lots of others in this series by Jill McDonald, and this is the new one this month, and I really like them, and it's also, you know, summer reading appropriate. Now is a good time to say that each one of these slides, which as per usual and as Lacey stated, but I'll state again, at the end of this you will be mailed a copy of this presentation, so do not feel bad if you miss one, although you can always ask in chat. Every slide has the author, has the title of the book, the author, the illustrator, and the ISBN 13 for when applicable, the hardcover copy. There might be a paperback in print, but if there's a hardcover available, that's the ISBN 13 that's listed. So just so you know, that's what is on every slide, but if you miss one, you will get the slide deck mailed to you after this is over. So that's the only board book we have this month. I hope we'll see a couple others next month. Okay, so this is one of my favorite books of maybe the year. It's called Bilal Cooks Dal, which is lentils, in case you didn't know. This is one of our door prizes today, this book. So one of you will be getting this as a door prize. So this is by Aisha Saeed, illustrated by Anusha Syed. So basically this is about a young boy. This was based on Aisha Saeed's son telling the kids in his kindergarten class that dal was his favorite food, and they had never heard of it before. So she wrote a story about dal. Food is going to be a big theme this month. So I'm going to read to you a little bit from it. Bilal is biking outside with his friends when his father steps out of the house. Bilal, it's time to begin cooking dinner, says Abu. Bilal's friends ask why they would need to start cooking so early. This dish takes patience, Abu says. This dish takes time. It's the best meal of all. It's, yeah, I agree. I'm doing a bad job holding up. It's dal. What is dal like? Is it salty? Does it taste really good? Dal is nutty and creamy and warm like soup. There are all different kinds. Come see, you can help us pick which one. And so, as you might guess, over the course of the book, we wait the whole day and we talk about how it's made. And there is the repeated refrain of, we go around and we play and we say, it's got to be ready Almost Doll Takes Time, We Have to Wait. So this is a super cute book. It's also super delicious, and I think it has a ton of connections for ways you could use it at your library. Kim Sherrill Benton, she's the librarian in Dyersville, and she posted a really great thing on Library Talk about the programming they do at their library based around food. I think this is super cute. It's another book that I mentioned the last couple of months. It has a dad and a kid interacting together, and we really like seeing more dads be more active. So this is another big bonus of this one. So this is one of the door prizes today. It's Bilal Cooks Dal by Aisha Saeed, and this is her picture book debut. She has a couple YA books out, and she has a YA book and a middle grade out, and this is her picture book debut. Hum and Swish. Hum and Swish spoke to me on a deeply profound level. This is Hum and Swish by Matt Myers. This is about a girl named Jamie who is building something at the beach and hates everybody coming to ask her what it's about. And I think that it is so rare in picture books to have this kind of kid. What are you making there? I don't know, Jamie says. Aren't you clever? I don't know, Jamie says. Isn't that pretty? I don't know, Jamie says. What's that supposed to be? I don't know, Jamie says. So I love the illustrations in this for one, but I also love that she is just a fiercely weird kid who is doing her own thing. And I love the way that this talks about creativity without talking about creativity, and the way that it gives her room to just create. This is also one of those books that rewards multiple readings, because as you follow along, the things that she's building develop throughout the text. And it just, especially for summer, we visit Maine. My husband and I go to Maine sometimes, and it really reminds me of the beach. Look, the look on her face here. How cute is that? And so I think too, this is a lot about when you find that internal motivation to create, along with it, really has a lot of really rich sensory details. So this is a book that really stuck with me, and I really, I really connected to it, and it's different, and it does reward multiple readings, which is the kind of book I really enjoy. They wrote a book about me. Hangry. He's hungry. He's angry. He's hangry. So Hangry is by Drew Brockington, who also wrote the graphic novel series Catstronauts, which is about cats who are astronauts. First of all, I love it. So this is basically about a monster who comes to the city and is very hungry and angry, and a pigeon steals his hot dog, and he gets very angry. One thing I love about this, it's written in this kind of comic book format style here. You can see how about some cabbage, that will do, a truckload of broccoli if I must, but of course he really wants a hot dog. It's super funny. It's short. It doesn't have a lot of words. The bright colored lines, I think, you know, how that is also how I look when I get a hot dog. Oh my gosh, what a coincidence. It also takes place in the city, so he's kind of like Godzilla rampaging through the city, but he really just wants like a hot dog. So this is Hangry, super cute, super fast. And I also like that he wasn't secretly a little kid who just needed a hot dog and then he turned into a kid. He really is a monster who wants to eat all the food. So and Drew Brockington is from Minnesota. So this is Hangry. So this is When Aiden Became a Brother by Kyle Lukoff, illustrated by Kailani Juanita. So When Aiden Became a Brother already has 4 starred reviews. I think it might get some more before it's all over. So this book is certainly, I think it might be, it's not the first, but it's certainly unique, and it is one of the only books on the market that's a picture book about a trans kid that was written by a trans person. So a lot of times when we see picture books about trans kids, they're written by cis people who want to talk about how, like, it's okay if you want to wear a skirt. And what I really loved about this book, besides everything, is that it takes Aiden and it puts him into an everyday kid situation, which is that he has just discovered that he is going to be a big brother. brother, and he is nervous about how will he know to be a good big brother. And so this is the book of how he figures out what the most important thing about being a big brother is, which is that you love your sibling. But within that, it is also a story about how we are true to ourselves and how easy it is to get into this is the only one way to be a kid. And so I want to read you from the very beginning. I think this is just exquisite writing. Everyone thought he was just a different kind of girl. Some girls had rooms full of science experiments and bug collections. Lots of girls didn't wear dresses. But Aiden didn't feel like any kind of girl. He was really another kind of boy. The illustrations in this are super joyful and vibrant. There is really nothing like this on the market. I can say that 100%. And I know that this is the kind of book that's going to make some people angry, but I also think it's the kind of book that's going to make some people feel really seen and loved. And it's also going to give kids a different idea of what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy, and if those things, what do they mean and how do they look? At the end of the book, when the baby arrives, at the baby shower, it says it's a baby instead of it's a boy or it's a girl. I think that this marks a turning point for what picture books can do, and those are the kind of books that excite me the most. And I think we're going to hear a lot from this book as the year goes on, and I am just really happy it exists. So, this is from Lee and Low, and I always come back to the picture of Aiden's mom kissing his forehead. So this is when Aiden became a big brother by Kyle Lukoff.
Angie, really quick, sorry to interrupt you.
Hit me. I'm trying to watch the chat, but I'm going fast.
Okay. Well, Kay had a question. And I'm not sure which book she was referring to. I think it was maybe the Humi and Swish. Is that what it was called?
Hum and Swish.
She wanted to know if that was a book with or without text.
It's with text. It's not wordless. It's few words, but everything that I said is text from it. So here, let's see. Yeah. So Jamie's dad brings sunblock. Is that a horse? Maybe, says Jamie. Jamie's mom brings a juice box. When do you think you might be finished with your project? Not sure, Jamie says. So it is with text. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another low text one. This is I Am a Wolf by Kelly Lee Miller. This is one that was released late last month, so it's a May book, but I'm including it. First of all, I'd like you all to look at my self-portrait on the back. There's me. This is really short. I think what really makes this stand out is the super cute illustrations. I think there's just enough in the text to ask kids to guess what's happening. There's just enough in the text and the pictures to ask kids to guess what's going on their own. Basically, it's about a dog who, of course, believes they will never be adopted, but you can guess what happens when a very special girl sees the dog at an adoption fair. It's a really fast read, but it's also, again, super adorable. There's the girl deciding that only Wolf will do for her. There's very few words in it, but the illustrations, lots for kids to guess in the text, and also just the idea of a found family and your found home is really cute. So this is I Am a Wolf by Kelly Lee Miller. It's her picture book debut. Rocket Says Look Up, perfect for this summer, by Nathan Byron, illustrated by Dapo Adela. So this is about a little girl who loves space and science, and she's named after rocket. She's named after rocket ships, and she wants everybody in her town, and particularly her brother, to look up for the meteor shower that is happening that night. And the entire book is about her trying to persuade everybody to look up. Look up from what, you are asking? And the answer is, of course, their phones. So she wants everybody to look up from your phones, look up from what you're doing, and take a minute to look up at the sky. So I think this is, obviously it's a good book for the summer, but I also think this is the kind of message that we're constantly in story time. Could you for 5 minutes put down your phone and look at this book that I'm reading with your kid? But it is also about going out in nature, and the moment when the meteor shower comes, and everybody looks up is just really great. And also it's always fun to see this kind of book about a nerdy kid. I love her glasses, obviously, about a nerdy kid who's really into space and knows what she wants. And so I think it works on a number of levels. It's a little bit longer than you might be able to use in a smaller kid story time. You see, so Brianna said the exact thing. It's long for a story time. I think you could clip it in a couple of places. I think there's a couple passages you could abridge it. But it's super cute. And I love that idea of what are we looking up for? Because a lot of those books about technology are like, put down your phone. And this one, which I love my phone. Why would I want to put it down? But like, put down your phone. But I think this one, the cute thing is we're putting it down because we want to look up and see the meteor shower. And the illustrations are super good. The illustrations are way cute. Depo Adela, he's an up and comer. This is an import from the UK, but I think he's going to be an illustrator that we're going to hear a lot from. Oh man, this one I love. So this is Where Are You From? I have the actual print book here. I'm doing a bad job. I'm going to work on the camera. So this is Where Are You From? It's by Shamile Saeed Mendez, and it's illustrated by Jamie Kim. Sorry about that. So this is about what happens when a kid at school is asked, where are you from? I'm from here, from today. Same as everyone else, I say. No, where are you really from, they insist. I ask Abuelo because he knows everything. And like me, he looks like he doesn't belong. And so this is the story of her grandfather telling her where she's from. And it is literally telling her about the places that she's from, like Argentina, but it's also about telling her the places that she's from as a person. So you are from the brown river that cleanses and feeds the land, that gives us the grain for our bread, the milk from the cows. You're from the mountains so high they tickle Senor Cielo's belly. And when the condor roosts his family, and the jaguar prowls the night. So the illustrations in this are super good. I think the language is really rich, but I also like that idea of understanding multiple things at one time. This book was published simultaneously in English and Spanish. It was, the author wrote both texts. So it was simultaneously published in English and Spanish, both written by the author. And I also think it's a more common question than we know. And the way that it ends, which is, but Abuelo, I ask, where am I really from? Abuelo laughs. You want a place? He points to his heart. You're from here, from my love and the love of all of those before us. From those who dreamed of you because of a song sung under the Southern Cross, or the words in a book written under the light of a northern star. You're from all of us. I know. So that's Where Are You From? It's super good. And the illustrations really kind of add to it. That you notice the color palette in it is really warm. So I think that really reflects in it. So the deeper color palette, I think, really matches the story. And if you are looking for titles in Spanish, you can purchase it now simultaneously in Spanish, not even as a translation, which is another thing I love and hope we'll see more of. And as per usual, we have come to the end of the picture book category. And as per usual, in every category, I pick a favorite every month. And so my favorite drum roll this month is, look at that pig. Okay, my favorite, look at that pig though. Okay, so my favorite this month is A Normal Pig by Kei-Fai Steele. And that normal pig there with the polka dots is Pip. And Pip is a normal pig. She lives in a small town, and her dad is pink and her mom is gray. And she thinks everything is normal until one day a new pig comes and makes fun of her lunch. And says her lunch is weird. So obviously you've probably figured out that this is a story where the animal, is so different and blah, blah. Here's what I love about this one and what really set it aside for me. And that is that her parents take her to the city and show her all these different pigs. They all look different. They all sound different. And Pip thinks to herself, okay, I'm different. As opposed to every other book like this where the animal thinks, it's so beautiful that I'll be just like everybody else. I'm different. And the part I really love is when Pip comes back and they say something, the pigs say something about her lunch. She says, maybe it's weird for you, but not for me. I like it. And then they all try the food. And that alone, there's always a part where they're like, oh, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. But saying it's not weird to me, it's just totally different. And also on top of it, the illustrations are so super cute. They're just adorable. It's a great addition for like pig story time. It's a story time about how we don't all have to be the same without being like, we don't all have to be the same. And they never, the way that she handled this of, yeah, that's right. Some of us have stripes. Some of us have spots. We all look different. It's okay. You don't have to fit in just like everybody else. I loved it. I loved it. I was sold from the get-go. I can't stop. They're just so cute. They're just so cute. So that combination of cute and a message about you don't have to look like everybody else. That's not the end of the story. That one really set this aside for mine. So that's my favorite picture book this month, A Normal Pig. Which is the author-illustrator debut. She's illustrated another one, but this is the author-illustrator debut of Kay Steele. All right, on to our chapter books. Okay, so this is a new series. This is The Pepper Party. They were released simultaneously at the end of last month, and they are The Pepper Party Picks the Perfect Pet and The Pepper Party Family Feud Face Off, with 2 more titles to come in the fall, as you can guess. The Pepper Party. It's about this long. Okay, this is an advanced copy. This isn't a finished copy, so this is just what it looks like, the density of text per page. There's illustrations throughout, and it's about 120 pages, so about what we would expect. And this is the tone, which is, you can guess probably from the title. Saturdays at the Pepper house were crazy pants. It was the only day of the week when every member of the large Pepper family was home at the same time. They were always up to something, but on Saturdays, the Peppers of San Pimento were up to a whole lot of things at the same time. And we have Ricky Pepper, Megs Pepper, Betta Max Pepper, Maria Pepper, Mima Pepper, Saul Pepper, T Pepper, Scoochie, and Annie Pepper. And here's all of them in the house, the picture of them in the house. So, you know, again, I think we talk about these sometimes, and a lot of the books in this category that I'm talking about this month are not, we're going to win the Newbery Medal. But are kind of, will circulate, I think, and we'll also kind of refresh certain sections of your library, which is what we're really trying to do. We're trying to get new titles into certain sections or certain genres, because we want to kind of have them see renewed interest. So this is The Pepper Party Picks the Perfect Pet. The back is, Annie aspires to adopt an adorable dog named Azzy, but her family fancies different furry friends, so her parents permit a parade of Pepper Pet picks, and soon the siblings sink to sabotage. Who will win the clan's crash of creatures? I think that sells it pretty well. So this is The Pepper Party. The first 2 are out, with more coming. This is Jada Jones. She's my favorite. So this is Jada Jones, Dancing Queen. This is number 4 in the Jada Jones series, by Kelly Starling Lyons. There's 4 before this. I hope there'll be more. And I'll give you a little, I'm going to show you a little preview. This is Dancing Queen, but this is what they look like. So there's approximately 5,000 words per book, right? So not too long, very short chapters. And this art, this is what we call 2-color art. They use it a lot when we're transitioning away from higher color art to longer chapter books. So this 2-color art is on almost every page. And this whole series is just a really good transitional series. And you can kind of see short sentences. If there's long words, there's only 1 or 2, and they have a lot of context. So grimace comes with, I tried to smile, but it felt more like a grimace. So a kid can use some context clues to figure out what grimace might mean. And I love that there's 4 of them already. So the others are Jada Jones, Rockstar, Class Act, Sleepover Scientist, and here's Dancing Queen. And I'll just read you a little so you can get another sense of the language. I spotted my buddy Miles and plopped onto a chair next to him. I love that we get to be in student council together. At first, he was an alternate for my class, but when a kid in another room had too many activities and was asked to step down, Miles got his spot. So that's kind of the level of this one. This is where, in this one, the plot of this one is that Jada and student council have a fundraiser, a dance fundraiser, but the secret is that Jada is not very good at dancing and she's afraid of dancing, but she wants to support the fundraiser. So what will she do? I love this series. I think they're super cute. Jada is, she likes making slime. She loves rocks. She's a really kind of nerdy scientisty kid, and a lot of that is written in through the books, which I really love that too. So this is a really great transitional, and we love books like this, and we would love to see tons more like this from publishers at this age group, because as you know, this is a huge market that isn't always as well covered as it should be. A couple of nonfiction books. Ask a Scientist by Professor Robert Winston is literally exactly what you think. It's a DK book, and it is exactly the kind of book for exactly the kind of kid that you know. And it is real questions that DK got from kids all across the globe that they sent in of what would you ask a scientist? How do boogers get in my nose? Does a butterfly remember its time as a caterpillar? All things children ask. Here's a sample spread. How do you make toilet paper? So this is what it looks like inside. You know, it has a little bit of the actual answer, but it also shows you a little bit today, the history of toilet paper. There's also ones about why do I need to wear sunscreen? You know, where do recyclables go? So things like that. Again, not a lot of plot to this, but it's going to be really high interest. And this is also an area that the last time you weeded this kind of scientific general interest area, you might have books over here that are like, how do my rotary telephone work? So this can be an area where you could say, oh, maybe I could do a little weeding here. Pull a couple books and add Ask a Scientist. So it's super cute. I'm sure there'll be others in the series. So this is Steve Shankin. So Steve Shankin, for those of you that are not familiar with him, Steve Shankin used to write textbooks. And he desperately, while he was writing textbooks, he desperately wanted to include a story about Benedict Arnold, who is like his lifelong interest. So he wanted interest in, and they were like, no, we don't have time for that. So he quit writing textbooks and started writing long-form teen nonfiction, including his debut book, which was called The Notorious Benedict Arnold. And my teenagers at the library I used to work at would ask me, why isn't this a movie? Benedict Arnold should be the hero. I'm like, are you familiar with like what Benedict Arnold did? But the way that Steve Shankin writes about him makes him seem like a tragic hero because he cared about him. And so from there, he's launched that into his kind of career of writing history from all the stuff he got during his history period. And he had written some other books before the Benedict Arnold book. He had written like, why was King George so mad? Get it? And so this is kind of a return to him after his serious books, hence 3 times National Book Award finalist. This is him after a return from his serious books to his more jokey books. And so these came out together. They are the second in the series. They're the third and fourth in the series called Time Twisters. Amelia Earhart and the Flying Chariot, and Neil Armstrong and Nat Love, Space Cowboys. So Amelia Earhart is where Amelia Earhart accidentally flies through time, gets messed up, and she flies into ancient Greece. And Nat Love, Neil Armstrong comes from the first mission to the moon to meet Nat Love in 1869. Nat Love is one of the most famous black cowboys, if you're not familiar with him. And this is what they kind of look like. This is what they look like. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in spacesuits, each atop a grunting, furious horse, which feels like a charades prompt, you know, but isn't. So they're about 175 pages. They're illustrated throughout. They kind of mix this time travel humor along with lots of tidbits of actual history. Who is Nat Love? What did he do? What were black cowboys like in this era? How did Neil Armstrong get to the moon? Kind of jam up these historical eras. And of course, there's 2 siblings who are trying to help set history right. So their names are Doc and Abby. And their goals are to set history back on the track. These would probably be in fiction. I don't even know where you would put these. I think they would have to be in fiction. They couldn't be really graphic novels. I don't know. But again, this might be an area that you're like, I don't really have anything about Nat Love. I maybe we need some more of these kind of engaging bridge history books. I think Rick Riordan has really started an appetite for this kind of thing. And so these are the 2 entries that came out this month. So again, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in spacesuits, each sat atop a grunting, furious horse. Go on. Okay, this is a small zombie problem. This is the debut novel by the illustrator of Flora and Ulysses, KG Campbell. This is about a little boy who makes friends with a zombie. And she is definitely a zombie. That's her there in the corner. One of the things I like about this has a bunch of weird, macabre, Tim Burton, Lemony Snicket-like kind of sensibility, but it's way weirder. And it's also more updated. Also, if you're looking for like the zombie kind of thing, if you're looking for something that's sort of it's not horror. She's a friendly zombie. He makes friends with her. She becomes an important part of the plot. So it's not horror, but it is kind of gross. So it meets that kind of we're not ready for horror era, but it is kind of icky. And so I'm going to read a part of it, which is when some of his friends meet the zombie for the first time. Stella stars Claudette, he stammered, is an exchange student from Lapland. Stella Stars had once rescued an unwitting Laplander from making a catastrophic choice in the lunch line. The grateful exchange student had gifted Stella with a reindeer, the concealment of which had made for a particularly hilarious episode. So they see her. Claudette's eyes loosely swiveled to the lanky youth, and Langley's jaw dropped as from the root beer float in front of him, the girl casually plucked the long-handled spoon and popped it into her own mouth. Hey, that's my... He was interrupted by the grotesque sucking and slurping that ensued. 5 pairs of eyes bulged as the spoon handle disappeared further and further until Claudette's face, until with a loud gulp, it was entirely gone. I love it. I personally really love Claudette. She's one of my favorite characters that I've read this year. So it's that kind of mix of like not zombies that are eating flesh, but a zombie who will in fact eat a spoon. It's the first in a series. The second one is called The Zombie Stone. I hope it comes out soon because it ends on a cliffhanger. This book is weird, but I know a lot of weird kids, don't you? And I really like that kind of mix of it. So that's A Small Zombie Problem by KG Campbell. Okay, these books are fine. This is Scout. It's the third in a series. The first one is National Hero, and the second one is Firefighter. It's about a search and rescue dog. These are literally, if you like kids who have the I Survived books, or if you have kids that like reading this kind of action, the prose is what we would call utilitarian, which means it gets the job done. I'll read you a little bit of it. Matt's mom was taking Scout to Puerto Rico too, in case her team needed him for a search and rescue operation. After all, Scout was the best dog they had. In the 8 months since he joined Colonel Tackett's canine team, Scout had proven that he was the best of the best. He'd been rough around the edges at first, a little undisciplined and a lot stubborn. But then a dam burst and a flood crashed through Silver Valley. Scout had saved a lot of lives that day, including Matt and his sisters. And if that weren't enough, Scout had also saved Matt and his dad and his friends when they'd gotten stuck on a mountain in the middle of a terrifying wildfire. We get it, dude, we get it. So again, you're going to want to pick up with number 1, which is Scout National Hero, and number 2, Scout Firefighter. But a lot, again, this kind of animal fantasy, not even fantasy because it's that realistic, but this kind of animal adventure, a lot of those titles are outdated, and this is more contemporary stuff. And as you know from the I Survived book, kids have an inexhaustible appetite for this kind of thing. It's really trendy right now, and a lot of really emergent readers and kids who don't like to read a lot of fiction, they're really drawn to this kind of mix. So again, not going to win the Newbery, but it's going to appeal to a crowd. So this is number 3, obviously. You might want to start with number 1 and see how it goes. Midsummer's Mayhem. Really love this one. So this is Rajani Rakoka. I love Rakoka. This is a upper middle grade, the main character is 11 years old, gentle retelling of Midsummer Night's Dream. Yes, the Shakespeare play. So the main character is Mimi Maxon. She desperately wants to stand out. She wants to be a famous pastry chef. And her father comes back from a business trip, and he is not the same as when he left. And Mimi has met a mysterious boy who takes her into the woods where they find all kinds of enchanted ingredients. But Mimi has begun to suspect that what she is baking is making the people in her town go a little lovesick and love crazy. So obviously it borrows elements from Midsummer's Mayhem. from Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare, has a ton of rich language in it and so much food descriptions. As I said earlier, food is really big. So many great food descriptions in this one. And there are recipes included. So this is kind of super adorable, light, frothy, fantasy. My favorite of the month. I could not shake this book, This is a graphic novel. It's called This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. And I have thought about this book. I just can't stop thinking about it. So it's a graphic novel. It's a comic book. It takes place in this town where they have a festival every year for the equinox in autumn, and they light these candles and they light these lanterns and they send them off. And this group of boys always every year say they're going to follow them all the way till the end. But they always end up drifting off. And so this is the story of the year they decide they're going to do it all the way. And only two of them end up staying. And one of them is Ben, who's the narrator, and Nathaniel, the kind of nerdy kid he really doesn't want to stick around. And as they follow these lanterns over the course of the night, all kinds of magical things happen. They meet a bear who can talk, and they meet Madame Majestic, who sends them on a separate adventure. And as you read this, you are completely taken in by this. I can't think of another word for this besides transportive. It is transportive. It's like being in a dream. I read a review that said they start saying that they're going to circumvent the globe in this, and you believe them. So I love this. I loved the way that it used this format to its advantage, and I love that I've never really read anything like this before. It's haunting. It stayed with me. So This Was Our Pact by Ryan Andrews. It's from First Second, one of the best graphic novel publishers around. So that was my favorite book. Young adult. Okay. This is The Chosen by Taran Matharu, which has nothing to do with this cover. Nobody in this book has a sword. There are no ninjas. I do not know why it looks like this. If you are not familiar with Taran Matharu, he was discovered on Wattpad. He got very famous. He's a British Indian man. My teens were obsessed with his previous book, which was called The Summoner series, which was about a kid who discovered he could summon demons. And this one, I think, will never be on the shelves. And it is about a teen boy who, his name is Cade. He's thrown out of his private school. Almost certainly he's thrown out in part because of racism. And he gets sent to a tough military school. And when he and the other kids end up at this military school, it of course turns out to be an island where they end up having to fight dinosaurs and run into the lost Legion of the Ninth from England. So I heard someone online say, and I think this is true, this book is like The Maze Runner meets a real life RPG game. And that's what this is like. It's super fast paced. It is kind of weird. And he literally immediately starts like fighting from the minute they get there. They're being sent on these missions. What have they been chosen for? Who has chosen them? It's obviously the first in a series, and it will be popular and never end. And if you are not familiar with The Summoner and you're looking for a fantasy that has a lot of monsters and action and spells and also has a male lead, because those are not as common now, it's kind of harder to find a fantasy with a male lead as the narrator. His first series, again, was published on Wattpad, so it is what it is. But this is the kickoff of the new one, The Chosen. Again, cover does not look anything like that. This is Sorry for Your Loss by Jessie Ann Foley. This is set outside Chicago. This book made me cry so hard I thought I was going to be sick with it. Literally, I was choking on my tears. It's exquisitely written, extraordinary prose. And for those teenagers that you have that want the next John Green book, that want to cry so hard, this is the book for that. Sorry for Your Loss, one of the things that is throughout the book is how that's like the most empty thing a person can tell you. So the main character in this is Pup Flanagan, and he is the youngest of 8 children from an extraordinarily large Catholic family. His older sisters are 26 years older than him. He was a surprise. And this is about his family dealing with the almost unbearable loss of the brother that everybody loved, Patrick, and how they cope with that, and how some of them are not coping with it, and how some of them are in denial about it, and how it's really fractured their whole family, and how Pup throughout that is going to find his voice as an artist, and he's also going to find his voice as the youngest kid in the Flanagan family that's always kind of been ignored. And we see his siblings kind of fall apart, and he also falls in love in this book with a girl who is separated from her mother, and the way that they connect, it's really exquisite. This is Jessie Ann Foley's third book. I've loved all of her books. Her first one, Carnival at Bray, involved Kurt Cobain, which need I say more. But I'm going to read you, I have my Kindle here, which is how I read it, and I'm going to read you a little bit about this, which is when he tells his mom has removed Patrick's picture from the hall, and she says to her, "Who cares? Will you stop erasing him, Mom? Patrick's face is the only one that belongs on the 7th step. That was his name. Patrick, and you won't even say it out loud." I don't need to say it out loud. That name lives in my heart every minute of my life, so I don't need to say it. You know what, Ma? Maybe I need you to say it. Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think about what it's been like for me to be stuck in a family where nobody ever talks about anything, where the hurt gets shoved down and left inside to rot? Fine, Pup. His mother threw her purse to the floor. She was crying hard now. But Pup didn't feel great. He felt guilty. He felt great. Finally, at last, she was fighting with him. "You win. I'll say his name. Patrick Michael Flanagan, my son who's been dead for 980 days." And she looked at her watch. 6.5 hours. There. I said it. Now are you happy? "Yes," he said quietly, and it was true. There was still life in her after all. Super good. Amazing. Can't say enough. This is War of the Bastards by Andrew Schwartz. It is the end of a series. Okay. I will tell you, I'm saying, how did I read that out loud? I chose one of the less emotional passages. There's a part where they go back to his brother's dorm room, the dorm room where his brother died. Okay. And the end. Okay. This is War of the Bastards. This is the end of a series. Okay. So one of the things I want you to know in this is, a lot of times, you know how you buy a book and then the series isn't all out and you're like, this is the end of a series called Royal Bastards. It's a trilogy. This is the final volume. It's over. The first one's called Royal Bastards. The second one's called City of Bastards. I'm going to say this. I won't tell you a ton about the plot of this one because it'll spoil it, but I'm going to say this as the quick book talk about this. This is the best young adult Game of Thrones read-alike I've ever found. Hands down, this series, and nobody knows anything about it. So Royal Bastards is the first one, and it takes place with the bastards of the kings in these kingdoms. So they have a weird place at court, maybe like Jon Snow, you might say. They have a weird place at court, and the action in the whole series starts when a group of them see their fathers attempting a coup. They walk in on their fathers attempting a coup of the main king. Of course, there's these different kingdoms with different kings and rulers and queens, and they witness their fathers trying to stage a coup, and their fathers find them to be utterly disposable. And so they go on the run to preserve the kingdom with the princess, the legitimate princess. They go on the run with her to preserve the kingdom. And of course, throughout all of the books, they come to the city. They meet people who think they're allies but are not. They find out who is really behind the plot. Magic comes into it because some of them have powers. It is a rip-roarer of a series. It's an extraordinary read, and it's over now, so you can get all 3 volumes if you want, or if you buy number 1 and then kids love it, you can be like, I get the other 2. It's under the radar. I wish it had a bigger audience. So this time will be different. This is another one that was really hard for me to get through. So this time will be different. Is about a family in California who run a flower shop. They are the Katsuyamas, and the main character in this is CJ. That's her on the cover there. What a cover. And her family runs this flower shop, and her mother is gonna sell it. And the person her mother is going to sell it to is the McAllisters. And it's not the first time the McAllisters have bought the flower shop. The last time they bought it is when they ripped off her great-grandparents as they were being sent to internment camps. And when her great-grandfather got out of the internment camp, he worked until he could buy it back. And now her mother wants to sell it to the descendants of the people who bought it in the first place. And in this moment, CJ finds the things that are not tolerable to her anymore and decides that she and her aunt and the community are going to push back from her mother trying to sell this flower shop back. I loved everything about this. I love the way that it takes the issue of internment and makes it an issue of now. It's not 100 years ago. It's not something that doesn't still have impacts. And I love how it becomes a vehicle for this girl to find her voice and her passion and her place. And this time it will be different. And the way that this has echoed through their community and how that plays out in the contemporary day, it's a super fast read. You want it to keep going. There's so many different sides. Why is her mother doing this? Why does it matter to her aunt in a way it doesn't matter to her mother? The way all of that is woven into it is just brilliant and flawless, and there is so much to talk about in this book, and I love when there's books for things to talk about. So this is This Time It Will Be Different by Misa Segura, and I cannot say enough about it. I cannot say enough about it. So now we're going to take a little global detour. This is The Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rebay. The majority of this book, the action of this book takes place in the Philippines. And so the main character in this, Jay, is getting ready to graduate. He's ready to graduate, whatever. And then he discovers that his cousin in the Philippines, June, has been executed by the president, by one of the anti-drug squads that President Duarte, who is the current president of the Philippines, has put into place to try to combat drug abuse. And so Jay decides that he's going to go to, nobody in his family wants to talk about it. So he decides he's going to go to the Philippines to figure out what's going on. One of the things I love about this book, first of all, the writing is stellar. Second of all, I love the global focus. I love, and the next one too is also set in South Korea. And I love the idea that YA is expanding outside of small towns, America, New York City, that expansion. Also, the writing in this is absolutely exquisite. And of course, the things that he discovers about what's going on in the Philippines, but also that we're going on with his cousin and that his family refused to talk about. I think teens are going to be inherently drawn to that. You can see the blurbs on the cover are from Laurie Hall Sanderson and Jason Reynolds. So that and Jason Reynolds says this is a singular voice in the world of literature. And I agree. The voice in this book, it is so clear, it is so realized, and you just want to keep reading. And it was almost impossible to put down. This one really stood out for me. And this is one book that for the whole year that stood out. And this one takes place totally different. We're in fantasy now. This takes place in South Korea. So this is Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. Okay, so our main character there on the cover is Myung, and she is a gumiho, which is a Korean fox spirit. They're really an important part in Korean mythology. They have 9-tailed foxes. And if you look at this cover, everyone, I want you to take a minute. Do you see the tails? Do you see the tail? You see at the bottom, do you see her tail? So she is a gumiho. Gumihos are spirits that feed on men to survive. And luckily, nobody really believes in the legend anymore, so she's doing good. She's surviving in modern day Korea. It's great. Nobody even knows she's there. And there's very bad men for her to feed on. But one night she makes a mistake that we all make, which is that she saves a human boy, Jiyoung, who, against her better judgment, she saves him, and along the way, she loses her bead, and her bead is her soul. And you can guess what happens next. Can you? Against her better judgment and against his better judgment, he knows what she is. They're drawn to each other. And the stakes are raised considerably when a shaman decides to return her to her form. But if he does that, of course, there's a lot of things at stake. I was not really in the mood for fantasy. I love this one. I love the mix of contemporary day soul with these myths and how they come together. I love her powers. She's so cool. And she's so strong and she's so smart. Oh, and the boy you can't help but fall for. I love it. I love it. And also, so as many of you know, teens right now are so into K-pop. They're so into Korea that that Korean culture is really a big part of so many teens' lives, and this just hits it. It hits it, and it's so good. It's a fantasy that you don't want to get out of. You don't want to leave. But as much as I love those two, and I did love them, they are not my favorite book of the month. My favorite book of the month might be my favorite book of the year. And it is Like a Love Story. I read this book in February. I haven't stopped thinking about it since. So this is Like a Love Story by Abdi Nazemian. It's already been optioned for a movie. It is going to be the next big thing. It is set in the 1980s. It's historical fiction, and it is set during the AIDS crisis. And it is about that generation of kids who were coming up right as that was happening. The three main characters you can see on the cover are Art, Reza, and Judy. And Reza is an Iranian teen, and he is desperately trying to reconcile the fact that he likes boys with his upbringing and his internal self. And Judy is the fat girl at school who's best friends with the only openly gay kid, who is Art. And they are both involved with activist movements in New York, particularly ACT UP, and the three of them collide, and it is exquisite. The writing in it, I'm just going to read you a little part of it because you can't not read the writing. So I'm going to read, I think I have it in my Kindle. I have the print book. The print book is going to be one of the books I give away. And it too, for me, the writing really sticks out in it. And so I'm going to read you a little passage from it once I can find it. Okay. But I'll tell you what we will never, I'll tell you what we will never, look, I bookmarked it wrong. That's why you can't trust the Kindle. I'll find it in the book. I love everything about this book. I read it super fast. I know it hurts your heart to think that this is historical fiction, that it's set in the 1980s, but it is. Okay. But I'll tell you what we will never be deficient of: love. We love art and beauty. We love new ideas and pushing boundaries. We love fighting corruption. We love redefining archaic rules. We love men and men who dress like women and women who dress like men. We love tops and bottoms and top hats, especially when worn by Marlene Dietrich. But most of all, we love each other. Know that. We love each other. We care for each other. We are brothers and sisters, mentors and students, and together we are limitless and whole. The most important four-letter word in our history will always be love. That's what we are fighting for. That's who we are. Love is our legacy. Love it. So of course, Reza and Art are drawn to each other, but Reza is trying really hard to think like and be straight, so he's also kind of dating Judy. This is one of the most realistic, heartfelt books I've ever read. And not only that, it perfectly captures a time, a place, a feeling, and a group of teens on the precipice of something terrible and great that you can never go back from. And on top of all of that, the writing is just that good. I had to put it down sometimes because I loved it so much. And this is one of the giveaways this month. So this one of the door prize winners will be this month. It is my favorite book of the month. It might be my favorite YA book of the year. The way that it talks about how much hope and connection we have with each other, the fear, it's super good. I know we're running late, so that's the last one. I'm going to wrap up. These are my tips is forever. I'm sorry. These are my tips. Pick one area to focus. Ask kids and teen what kind of books they want. I need more fantasies. They're really interested in nonfiction. Here are some links, but it's me. Please say over in the chat which book you're most interested in, which one sounded the best. If you bought ones from previous months, which ones people were into. I love hearing that. What other collection development content would you like to see? I have more planned. I really do. Wait till you hear about it. Lexi and I will tell you all about it. Lacey and I will tell you all about it. We have other stuff planned. What kind of other collection development resources can I provide? Can I make you a book list? Can I make you some signs? How can I make you more likely to attend in real time? It's giving things away, I know. Summer reading, my friends. Please take care of yourself. Remember that you matter, okay? the library is just the library. It will go on existing even if you quit tomorrow. So do not burn yourself out. Leave for lunch, walk around the building, take care of yourself. You are important. You are doing a fantastic and wonderful job. It is so important. It is the most important job, but you matter more than that. Take care of yourself. You are important. Bye all. I'm sorry we ran a little late. I was bad with the phone. I will do a better job next month pacing. Please take the survey. Lacey and I will also let you know who the door prize winners are. Thank you for making time during summer to come to this. I know how stressful it is, and I want you to know I appreciate everything you do and are, and I see you and I see what you're doing, and even if nobody else does, know how important what you are doing is. It is changing some kid's life, and that's what these books can do too. This can save some kid's life. This can make them feel seen and known and loved, and you can share it with them. Lacey, how's it? I'm sorry,
you're great, Angie. Thank you for putting this on. It sounds like we've got some great feedback. Go ahead.
Next month is open already if you want to register for July's. Yes.
Yes, and be looking for the survey this afternoon, hopefully.
Okay. 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 Bye, all. See you next month. Thanks for coming. Sorry we ran long. I'll wrap it up next month. Okay, great.